Florida State picks up another verbal commitment.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And today, it's a Saturday. We're going to be celebrating Florida State's 22nd commitment of the class of 2026. Deron Parks, offensive lineman out of Cardinal Mooney High School in Sarasota, Florida, has pledged to Mike Norvell and the Noles. This is offensive line commitment number 3, and again, overall commitment number 22. So let's talk about Parks as a player, who the competition was, and what this means for Florida State. First off, the Noles got back on track last year with 4 O-line commitments. It's obviously the position they need to fill from the high school ranks the most on the roster. They got a good start. Now they're up to 3 in this class with Parks joining the fold, and they're still going to try to add at least one more, I would assume. Wouldn't be surprised if they took 2, depending on the player or players involved for those opportunities. So Florida State now has started to right the ship with offensive linemen, and Parks is a good part of that because he's a big guy. He's 340 plus, but he's got really good feet. I've had the opportunity to see him live at the Under Armour camp in Orlando. That's not a guy that's just going to go out there and just be a guard only. He's going to have to reshape his body, which a lot of kids do at the high school level going into college, but he's got flexibility and the ability to bend. Going against guys that were 100 plus pounds less than him, he's pretty darn good at being a pass protector, and he even did a little left tackle during the one-on-ones. Do I think he's best suited to play guard? Probably, but having a guy that can be a swing player at offensive tackle and guard is invaluable. Look at what happened to Florida State the last 2 seasons in 23-24. For whatever reason, they went through a plethora of injuries. Guys had to move around. The more likely you are to have good success consistently is based on your ability to put guys in there that can move. If you just have a guy that can only play right tackle, is he really going to help you that much, etc.? Parks will be able to play inside or out, and I don't think it's going to matter if it's right side or left. And again, flexible, athletic, and he's got a really powerful upper body. Definitely needs to take a big step forward in the weight room and change his diet. Again, a lot of kids are like that, especially in the South, but you can't teach what he's already been given. I think this is the perfect developmental player for Herb Hand and the Florida State Seminoles, kind of like Brown from last year in reverse. Brown probably needs to add more weight. He was 260, 270 coming out of high school when he signed with Florida State. He's the kid out of Warner Robins, Georgia, that I'm really high on as a tackle, but it's going to take a year or 2 to get up to the strength in the weight to play. That's typical. Bobby Bowden used to take kids like that all the time, and so did Jimbo Fisher, among other Florida State coaches. So that's fine. But bottom line, Florida State's O-line class is finally trending in the right direction. As for what else they need in this class, they don't have a running back anymore, with Amari moving on and probably going to South Carolina. So you need one running back. That would be preferable. Receiver, you're always curious if you can find a big boundary receiver, but I don't think that's going to happen. The Noles got 5. If they get another tight end, it's got to be a truly big-time player. Add one more offensive lineman, maybe 2. Defensive line's in a good spot. They just need one of those, what they call the jack position, a stand-up outside linebacker that's a pass rusher. Those are not the easiest guys to find, but there are a lot of guys on the board. Linebacker, possibly one. DB, they're in a really good spot. They've got several good defensive backs, including Chauncey Kennon, arguably the best DB in the state of Florida for the class of 26. He's out of Booker High School in Sarasota. But now Florida State just has to be selective. They're going to have a borderline top 10 class just with where they sit right now. The final few spots, if it's a player that doesn't truly fit Florida State, and of course you always want that, but like really fit, bank that scholarship, move on to the next class, and you could always use it in the transfer portal as well. So I like where Florida State's at. The jump they have taken with the offensive line in particular over the last 2 classes is promising. Do I think they're done as a class with what they need and how well they recruit the elite players? No, those are the steps they still got to finish out. A couple more players in moving into the class of 27, which Florida State's already offered a ton of players in that class. They just got to go up another notch in terms of elite players. They're finally, though, back on the right path. This is the kind of recruiting that Florida State fans should expect. Balanced classes, plenty of numbers, not a dearth of problems at the offensive line spot. Let's go back to that for a second. And then finally, you just kind of look across the board and you're like, there's a guy at every spot that you would think that's somebody that Bowden would have recruited. That's somebody that Jimbo would have recruited. Both of them were obviously elite coaches when it comes to getting on the trail and being busy with recruiting. And it really cemented the program in its history. So I'm very happy with where they are with all that. And we'll see if Florida State can finish out this class and get rolling in 27 as well. Don't be surprised, by the way, if the Noles end up with a few commitments between now and the middle of this season for the class of 27, in addition to what they've already done. Some of those kids are starting to commit, so that's something else to think about. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe, and tell your friends about the Locked On Seminoles podcast. I truly appreciate it. We will see you again soon.